Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks very much for having us today. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Kiefner. I'm with Johnson, Kendall, and Johnson, and I have been a member of the JKJ Risk Control Department for the past 21 years. Been in healthcare for probably about 25 to 30 years. And I'm going to flash back to right around 1995 when most communities were starting to look at lift equipment, whether it was Hoyer or sit stand. There were a lot of lift studies out at that time, right around 1995. And that pushed a lot of communities to purchase equipment over the next 5 years. So between 95 and the 2000s, we saw a lot of lift equipment being purchased. I worked at that time with a workers' compensation carrier, and we took a close look at resident handling and transfer injuries. And despite the increase in lift equipment in communities, we didn't see that much of an impact with the communities we were working with. Forward to 2001, I started working with JKJ, and I figured I would start taking a close look at the 250 plus communities that JKJ works with. I figured I would look at their resident handling and transfer programs and protocol and dissect them. And I did that for about a year and did not find that I was making much headway in really reducing accidents. So I took a step back and thought about how can I get behind closed doors to see what type of behaviors are taking place that are causing the injuries not only to staff, but to residents. And I asked a few of the communities that we work with if I could stage resident transfer drills unbeknownst to the staff. And I would let the management team know about them. I would get somebody from the community, whether it was the ADON or the DON, to be the quote unquote resident. And I would stage a situation in an empty room. And I would ring a call bell. I would greet the staff at the front door, at the door to the resident room, and let them know that we are conducting a resident transfer drill, that there's no negative outcome to the drill. It's all positive reinforcement. And we just want to see how they handle the situation. So just to give you an example, let's say we staged a fallen resident at the edge of the bathroom and rang the call bell. The staff came. Staff decides when they see the fallen resident, they need to call for assistance. They then go through the resident assessment process and start their decision making. So that's the way the drill unfolds. And what we like to look for, I'll give you some ideas for the observations during the drill. We take a look at if proper communication takes place between the employees and the resident throughout the drill process. If the drill involves a fallen resident, was the pre-transfer resident assessment completed and completed properly? If the drill involved a fallen resident in a tight area, did the staff properly clear the area for the lift? If the area was not accessible by a lift, was a draw sheet or slip sheet used to get the resident to a lift accessible area? And if a lift was used, does the staff know how to properly and safely attach the sling? And it depends on the model as to how the slings are to be attached, and in some cases we find some confusion. If a lift was used to transfer from the floor, were the lift legs padded with pillows or other soft items to prevent skin tears? So in order to properly conduct a floor transfer with many of the lifts, the resident's legs have to be draped over the base of the lift, and some of the lift models have rough edges, so there's going to have to be padding placed in those areas. If a lift is used, are the brakes left unlocked to allow the lift to continuously find the center of gravity? Now that would be for a Hoyer lift, not a sit-stand lift. But because there are locks available for the casters, most individuals who are not properly trained, or even if they are properly trained, will lock the wheels to the Hoyer lift when using it, which potentially can tip that lift over. So that's a big item to look for. If a lift is used, are employees familiar with the lift controls and their capabilities? So these are all items that we look for throughout the resident transfer drill. Once the drill is completed, we gather everyone that was involved. and we hold a mini training session to go through the items that need to be reinforced. We then provide documentation back to the community so they can further use that documentation to train the other members that were not part of that drill. So that's what we've been doing for the past, I would say, almost 20 years with our clients, and we've seen a significant reduction with resident handling and transfer injuries. That takes us to about 2019, when I started to feel as though we had resident handling and transfer fairly under control within the skilled environment. But then we took a look outside of skilled, and we were still seeing many injuries. And some of the hardships outside of skilled, you're going to have responders to a fallen resident in assisted living, in independent living, and in common areas that include security, maintenance, and other employees who are not capable of doing a resident assessment, and in most cases don't know how to use lift equipment or any other assistive devices. So those of our communities that are now thinking outside the box and really taking a look outside of skilled care, they're taking the drill process and they're taking it to the common areas, the clubhouses, the independent living apartments, and doing the same process with the resident transfer drill in those areas. Other hardships outside of skilled is, in many cases, you're going to have a fallen resident outside of skilled that involves manual lifting, and you have no devices, nothing to help you. You don't have the Hoyer, you don't have the sit stand, and in many cases, there are no other devices available, resulting in a manual lift. And then with the most recent trend with fewer skilled beds, and in some cases, we have communities being built, very large communities that are being built without any skilled care. So over the next few years, I think we're going to have a lot of skilled care taking place in what is considered a non-skilled area. So we really have to be forward thinking and think about how we're going to deal with some of those exposures. We have been having our clients take a close look at a variety of pieces of assistive equipment that can help outside of skilled. So the first thing that we started looking at right around 2019 was the available models of fold-up Hoyer lifts. So these are Hoyer lifts that can be stored under a bed, stored in a closet in a clubhouse, so that if there's a fall in a common area, a lift is now available. There are more unsafe models of fold-up lifts than safe models, meaning there's a lot of things that can go wrong with many of these fold-up lifts. The one that I particularly like is called the MoLift 150. A number of our clients use the MoLift 150 and conduct drills with it on a routine basis. They will train their security staff, their maintenance staff on the use of the MoLift 150, but obviously also train them that they are not to touch or move a resident in a common area who's fallen without a full assessment by a nursing staff. But in many cases, you will have the security and maintenance group conducting a transfer with a member from nursing outside of skilled areas with communities that have done the training and done the drills. We also see a device called the Camel Lift, C-A-M-E-L, Camel Lift used. It's an inflatable chair, much like an inflatable mattress would be used at home for sleeping on. It inflates from the floor into a chair. Where is that used? That's typically used in independent living homes or for home health care where a fall has taken place. We also are seeing a lot more use of slip sheets because they're very portable and they can be used for a variety of purposes to help reposition a resident for a better transfer. Lastly, I'll mention one final product that one of our clients is using. I am not sold on it yet, but they swear by it. It's called the Binder Lift, B-I-N-D-E-R lift. And it has a number of buckles that go around an individual who has fallen. The device has a number of handles all over it, so there's better ability to grasp and lift. My take on it is it still involves lifting. So you still have a significant exposure. And should you be calling 911 instead of conducting that transfer? So that the verdict is out on that one. I'm not sure what to think about that, but it is being used successfully by one of our clients. So I guess the bottom line, the main reason that I wanted to hold this call with you is to raise awareness of transfer situations that are taking place outside of skilled care and force you to think about the different devices that are available to you, and take the initiative to research those devices. That concludes our call today and my information. Sarah, thank you very much for having me.